Hey everyone, I'm here with Brian Batey on another Fatherhood Rocks podcast, and this guy have done so much for autism and awareness. He knows so much stuff. He's been on a road for a long, long time, and actually, this is the second podcast we're doing because the first one, the audio wasn't the greatest. So, and because he has so much to say and so many. Uh, Good information that I decided to, instead of just trying to recover that audio, just do another one. And thankfully, he's here, ready to rock and roll on another podcast and talking about rock and roll. We share a really unique taste for music that we're gonna talk a little about today. But most important, it's gonna talk about his son, his family, and his journey into fatherhood. So, Brian, can you introduce yourself a little bit? Talk a little bit about your son.
Yeah, like you said, I'm Brian Batey. I'm really honored to be the third podcast here because, like I told you before, you've had some young fathers who have young children with recent diagnoses. I kind of started cracking up when you were like, he's been around a long time. He's done a lot of things. I was like, well, I'm not Moses, okay? But I am 52 years old, and I have an autistic son who is about to turn 23. He's very high functioning, but he does have challenges. And I am also autistic. My diagnosis is autism with Tourette's syndrome and major clinical depression. Fortunately, Nathan does not have the clinical depression. He is Asperger's, like I am, Asperger's high functioning autism, and Tourette's, but he really does not have the depression, and I'm grateful for that because that's a real beating.
Yeah.
It's been interesting. I feel like I've lived in two worlds. I grew up as the only kid with Tourette's for over 100 miles in rural Louisiana. So I was kind of a minority to myself, if you will. So, yeah, my life has been kind of interesting, and it's given me a unique perspective on watching my son grow up and on the whole being a father of a disabled child, so to speak. But it's been interesting being an autistic parent raising an autistic son. And I think that's the unique perspective that I have to offer other than my years of experience.
Yeah. So, talking about that, when you got yours diagnosed? How old was your son? Because I know you got diagnosed like afterwards. After.
Right.
Yeah.
Nathan was diagnosed at 4.
Okay.
So we got a really early start on him. I'm grateful for that. With autistic kids, as with any kids who have challenges, the earlier you diagnose, because their brains are so malleable and they learn so quickly at young ages, the earlier you get a diagnosis and begin therapy and begin interventions, the better they do. My diagnosis, I was diagnosed with Tourette's at 16. Okay. They did not figure out my autism diagnosis until I was 46. And it was my wife that figured it out. And then I went to my psychiatrist that had been, up until then, just taking care of my kids. And I said, I think I have Asperger's. And I told her the tests that I'd taken and that I had put myself through the tests as who I am now, and it's who I remember myself as a teenager. And she agreed with me. She said, I think you're absolutely right. And she said, but most people will never know that you're autistic, and they'll never know that you are depressed because you hide it so well. And I realized that in order to have the life that I've tried to build and to try to have a life worth living where I could be married and have a degree and have my own children, I've had to learn to fake it, so to speak. I've had to learn to present myself like I'm what I refer to as one of the natives of this planet, like I'm one of the regulars, like I'm like everybody else, when in truth, I'm really not. And so that's given me a different perspective on raising Nathan and the things that I've taught him along the way.
Oh, okay. Well, so it did make a difference after you found out. It did make a difference on how you raised your child.
Oh, yeah. And it made a difference in how I viewed myself because there were things in my past that I considered personal failures that I could not understand why I didn't do better. That looking at it through the lens of the diagnosis, I was able to kind of forgive myself and go, okay, I've judged myself too harshly. I had developmental delays and developmental problems that caused these things. And it wasn't because I wasn't strong enough. It wasn't because I wasn't smart enough. It was because I was overcoming something that I didn't know I was struggling with.
Do you think it was better to know what it was or to not know, in
It's
your
always
opinion?
it is always better to know.
To know.
I consider a diagnosis as a good thing. I once wrote in my blog, my diagnosis, my friend, because when we got Nathan's diagnosis, it gave us direction, it gave us clarity, and let us know how to best deal with him and the kind of medical professionals we need to engage and how to deal with the education system. Um,
Yeah,
when I
I like having a diagnosis because like a lot of people they have a tendency to uh, like if you don't have a diagnosis they will try to act to you like they will do with anybody else
Yeah,
without understanding who your true self is, you know, like. But when you have a diagnosis they were like, okay, now I kind of understand what it is
oh
and
yeah,
I can, you know, instead of, you know, like it would be easier if everybody said like, okay, he is this way, accept it and you know work on it. But normally people wait for, like, I'm saying other people, not you itself.
right.
I'm saying like the general public. They wait like, oh, okay, now we have a diagnosis. Now we have to treat. You know, like you have to accept it, and
Yeah,
which is sad.
the
You know.
diagnosis not only helps you, but it protects you because people will assume that you're just a failure or that you're weak, or and when in truth, when you have a diagnosis, you're not weak. It tells people that you're not weak, that you're not a failure, that you are doing everything you can, and maybe you need to be respected and accepted for who you are, where you are.
But that should happen without the label, right? I mean, that's
It should,
it
but there's
should,
a lot
but
of things, Richard, there's a lot of things in the world that should happen. But imagine if Luke did not have a diagnosis and that people just assumed that he was lazy.
yeah. No, I
Okay?
totally agree with you.
Only a fool would think that about your son, to think that he was too lazy to breathe on his own. But when you get beyond those obvious things into the things that define normalcy in social interaction and education, people tend to assume that if you're not measuring up to the standard they accept, they believe that you're somehow lazy or that you're just somehow not putting forth the effort. Whereas with a diagnosis, it tells them that you're probably putting forth more effort than anybody they've ever met
Exactly.
to try and make a successful life in their world.
Yeah. Though that's how I see my son. You know, like for example, for him to lift something, it's like it's an effort that is beyond explainable. You know, like, and he doesn't give up. So
Right.
it's just like you said. I mean, It's just a different type of strength that
Yeah.
people, like.
Okay, see, and I love it. I love the videos you post with Luke
Oh, thank you.
because I can look at it and I know your history of being a triathlete and how hard you've trained. But I think if I asked you, honestly, Richard, who works harder,
Oh,
you or Luke? I think we would both agree. Luke, Luke's work, I see it in the videos how hard he works to do the things he wants to do, to accomplish the things you're teaching him to do. And so I think I'm sure you would agree with me. Being a triathlete seems almost easy compared to how hard Luke works.
oh man, there's no doubt about that.
Yeah. And so that's where we go from awareness to acceptance. When we've talked about before that I've worked in autism awareness, but I don't know how to create acceptance. But when you look at someone and you realize that they're working harder every moment of every day than even an Olympic athlete is, and what they're working for is just to live in the world and be able to have friends and communicate with people and be understood, it changes your whole perspective. And that's what the diagnosis does.
Yeah,
The diagnosis tells everybody else this person is working harder than you can imagine. And whatever opinions you have that are negative, you need to understand that you're wrong and you need to abandon them.
exactly. Now, you okay? When you got your son's diagnosed, you didn't have yours. I mean, you have partially yours.
Yeah.
You didn't have the autism part, but how was to receive? Because like, how which year was that? Was like he's 27,
Okay. That was 19 years ago.
19 years ago.
I was 33 years old. Um, I'll be honest with you. It was earth shattering. I can't tell you the number of days I cried the whole way to work.
Yep.
I was working for Southwest Airlines in IT at the time, and I my coworkers told me that for 9 months they thought I was going through a divorce because I would show up for work, go to my desk, do my work, get up and leave, and I didn't socialize with people, and I did not because I knew that even though all I knew that I had then was Tourette's and possibly obsessive compulsive disorder, I knew that it was my genetics that gave it to him, and I felt such a level of guilt. It's not logical. I shouldn't feel any guilt. I can't control my genetics, but I felt such guilt that after 9 months, when I finally told a couple of coworkers what was going on, they said, "Dude, we've been worried about you. We thought you were going through a divorce or something because you have not been you for the last 9 months."
Yeah.
In truth, it took me about 3 years to come to terms with his diagnosis. Now, let me be clear. When I say come to terms with it, that was in my own mind. Nathan was never less to me. He was my kid. He was my boy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? He
Okay.
always has been. He always will be. I never let him see that I was struggling with his diagnosis because that would not be fair. You can't put that on a 4-year old.
No, not at all.
But we were able to immediately put together a stellar team of medical and psychological professionals and therapy professionals. We lived in the Fort Worth area at that time. We were very blessed to be there. There's some there are some extraordinary professionals who have committed their lives to dealing with autistic children there. And so we were able to network from one doctor, one therapist to another, and really, while we were there, set him up to become the person that he is now, who is articulate and compassionate. He still has developmental challenges, but he has a part-time job where his coworkers love him. He works at a veterinary clinic. They have found that animals become calm around him, and so they have found a way to use him as an individual and to use the special things about him to benefit that practice and the patients of that veterinary clinic. And so it's been very rewarding, but early on it was extremely difficult for me.
Yeah. Well, guilt. I think it's one thing that almost every parent goes through, and because I know I went like when my son was born, and then I was like, because I was an Iron Man, and then I said like for some reason I was like, this is so ironic, like I was, my life was all about muscle, and he comes with a muscle weakness. But that's when I realized that like, he came to the right to the right dad, because
Yeah.
to the right parents, because my wife and I, we were both triathletes. We both like know how hard it is to work and
Yes.
go for it. But I, like in the beginning, you go to a lot of guilt. Like
Yeah, exactly. And see, that's the beauty of it. When I watch you and your wife with Luke, um, it's very obvious to me. I've told you before, I'm a devout follower of Christ. I'm not particularly churchy, but that's the most important thing in my life. And I believe that God gave Nathan the right family, and I believe God gave Luke the right family
yeah, I
because
totally believe that.
because Luke has a muscular disorder, and his parents are experts in muscular development because of being triathletes.
Yeah, it all
I
makes
mean,
sense.
when you think about Luke and you think about, okay, it's hard having a special child. And you think about, I've had to think about this with Nathan. Okay, if I could do it over, who would I give Nathan to make sure that he's well taken care of by someone who understands? There's nobody I would give him to because I'm autistic.
Exactly. You have totally understanding about him.
Yeah, and you with Luke having a muscular disorder, you're an expert on muscles. Your wife is an expert on muscles.
Yeah.
Okay? If I was God and I had to choose, okay, there has to be a child with this. I'm sorry, I would choose you and Carol to give him to
No, no doubt
because
about
you
it.
because you understand muscular development. You have such knowledge about that he has wound up with the perfect set of parents. And to me, that is, I don't know, it's amazing beyond belief when I see that happen.
Oh, I appreciate it. But like I always tell everybody, I wouldn't change for anything the way
Right.
my journey into fatherhood came into play, and that's I just want to put it for the record there, because it's it's been beyond the blessing
Yeah.
for me and my family. So
Oh, look, I watch your video. Anybody who does not watch your videos is missing something that will get them through their day because y'all are inspiring. Luke is inspiring. You and your wife are funny. I don't know if you understand. There are two types of people in this world. There are people who are actually funny, and there's people who think they're funny. And y'all are so hilarious to me dealing with Luke, and I can look in his face when y'all are dealing with him and see how happy he is and how he appreciate y'all's humor. And, I've had people send me a ton of stuff that I call inspiration porn. Okay, and I want to deal with that for a second. What is pornography? Pornography is something that a person can watch and gain some benefit, but it objectizes the person they're watching and does them no good. Okay?
Okay.
Whether it be there's sexual pornography, but there's also what I call inspiration pornography, which is where they on Facebook they send you a picture of a burn victim and they say, click like and share if you think this person is beautiful. Well, clicking like and share might make you feel good about yourself as a person, but it objectizes and does nothing good for that person. And I hate it. But what y'all post is not anything like that. What y'all post is a journey as a family of every day Luke does something a little bit better.
Yeah.
He plays with a toy a little bit better. Like I told you earlier, I didn't know about his ability to make sounds because his disorder. I did research when you told me what his disorder was. I'm Asperger's. We are obsessive people, so I researched it. And I saw that the vocal systems were highly affected. But you had that microphone with the reverb on it, letting Luke make sounds and make noises, and I was like, holy crap, I didn't know he could do that.
Yeah.
And it made me crazy happy. Not because I felt good about myself, but because I was like, wow, look at the progress they're making.
Yeah, his condition, like technically he can talk, but he's gonna be a low talker, and it's just like the voice comes out usually about 3.5 years old. So, but it's very low talk, and when they get tired, they need to use something else
Right.
to communicate. But like it's amazing to see, and like I talking about inspiration. Like one day, I went to the supermarket, and I saw this kid that he had, like, he's a blind kid, and he has the stick and all, and I saw him crossing the street, and I was like, okay, he's going to the supermarket. When I left the supermarket, that's when I realized that the kid works there, and his job was to take the carts from the parking lot
Yeah.
back to the store, and the kid is blind with a can, and he's doing all that. And then I stopped to think of, like, like, this is so inspiring. And the beauty of being a special needs dad is that you get to see that every freaking day of your life.
Yes, sir.
Like, so like, I don't know if people realize, but when you look at it, like, I get to see that every day. I get to see this beautiful child, like, doing everything he can to overcome his challenges every
Yes.
single day. And it's just like the most beautiful thing you can see in life.
Yeah.
And you, as a special need dad, can tell exactly, and being a special needs, like, you can tell exactly what I'm talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, because here's the deal. There comes a point where, as a father of a special needs child, as crazy as it sounds, at times you almost feel sorry for parents of, quote, normal children. Because
I thought about that before too.
Because there's only one homecoming queen, there's only one captain of the football team, but we get to celebrate victories that are so much bigger than being the captain of the football team or being the homecoming queen with great regularity, sometimes every day. Sometimes our child, they are big, and we get the amazing experience of realizing that our biggest mistakes with them have been in our beliefs of their limits
Yeah.
because they keep surpassing our limits. And it's like we have these things ev on a regular basis that are worthy of a parade for us. Whereas some people in life never get to feel that with their children.
Exactly.
Their children are good people. They make average grades. They go on to have good marriages, average marriages maybe. But with us, because our children have struggled so hard, there are tiny little things, like when I got to the point where I could send Nathan into GameStop, and everybody in GameStop knew Nathan and knew what he liked and would talk to him about his favorite games and superheroes. And he could go in there without me having to protect him. He could go in there and do business and use his money to pay for the games he wanted. Well, most people don't think that's a big deal, but for us, that's like happy birthday, Merry Christmas.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so they don't get to experience the consistent and surprising joyful moments that we get to experience because the world's expectations of our children are so low, and it corrupts us, and it affects our expectations, and then they just blow our expectations out of the water, and it's just an amazing moment to have in life.
Exactly. Yeah. Hey, and it's funny because you mentioned superpowers, and that was one of my questions because I read on your awesome blog that I'm gonna put on the description of this podcast that you wrote quite a bit of stuff, and I know you stopped writing when your son finished high school, but one of your posts you said like we all got superpowers,
Yeah.
and like I read it. It's just very, very cool. So I just want you to explain a little bit for the listeners. Uh, what are you talking about when what do you mean about everybody got superpowers?
Well, a lot of people on the autistic spectrum have special abilities. Our brain seems to focus itself subconsciously on certain things. Nathan's is that he can do calendar manipulations in his head that are mind boggling. I was sitting watching TV one day, and I love cooking, so I was naturally watching the Food Network. Um, he comes in, this was probably 4 years ago. He walks in and he said, "Dad, do you know that I have a calendar in my head?"
Out of nowhere, he came and said that to you.
Yeah, he just walked in, and I paused the TV. I was like, "Wait a minute. I'm pausing my show for this crap. I
That
got to know
requires a
what the
little bit
boy
of that
I got to
requires
know what the boy is telling me."
exactly that requires a little bit of attention.
Yeah, I'm like, "Okay, you have my full attention, son." So I said, "Really, Nathan? What do you mean?" And he started telling me, well, like, his favorite holiday is Halloween because ever since he's been too old to trick or treat, he dresses up and he greets the trick or treaters at our house.
Oh,
And
that's so cool.
for those who have not seen Nathan, I've showed you pictures of Nathan. They have to realize that in his tennis shoes, Nathan is about 6'3" and a half and about 340 pounds. We call him our gentle giant. Okay.
Gentle giant.
And what's funny is animals and small children flock to him because of his gentleness. Okay. So his Amanda is my wife is brilliant at finding costumes in his size. So Halloween is his big day. Anyway, he comes out and tells me this, and I've learned to take him seriously when he says stuff. Um, So I paused the TV and he started telling me, well, Dad, Halloween this year is on this day of the week and Halloween next year. And I went, well, Halloween's easy, dude. I said, let's let's do some other dates. So I said, Nathan, World Autism Day is August 2nd. What day was that on this year? And in less than a second, he told me the day of the week. It was a Tuesday that year.
Wow, that's incredible.
And I went, okay, let's start exploring this. And I said, Nathan, Dad's birthday is March 17th. He immediately told me what day of the week it was. I said, wait, baby. Dad was born in 1967. So what day of the week was Dad born on? He went, well, that's a hard one, Dad. And he thought for a second. He said Friday. And so I asked Siri what the day was, and he nailed it. It was a Friday. And I said, well, my dad, your papa, his birthday is March 16th, the day before mine. Well, Dad, that was a Monday this year. Just immediate. And I said, yes, but he was born in 1947. Well, that's kind of a hard one, Dad. But then he told me exactly what day my dad was born on.
Wow.
And I've taken him 100 years from 1947 in the past to when his mother will be 80 years old. When I've forgotten when that was. But it was kind of funny because I said, okay, Dad will be 80 years old someday, hopefully. What's Dad's birthday going to be when I turn 80? What day of the week? And he came back after a few minutes. He said Saturday. And I looked it up and I said, nay, that's not right. And he was pacing in the kitchen going, that has to be right. It has to be a Saturday. It can't be anything else, blah, blah. I said, and I could tell it was really stressing him. I said, come here, Nay. I said, sweetheart, March 17th of the year I turned 80 is not a Saturday. He went, oh, I was thinking Mom's birthday, December 28th. Guess what? She will turn 80 on a Saturday.
That's crazy. I cannot even remember which day is today.
Thank you. I can't remember what I ate yesterday.
Exactly.
Okay. And so when he learned to use it, it was kind of funny. When he went to high school, he started using it like a parlor trick to impress the girls. He's the cat daddy. No question. He's all boy. Okay. And he doesn't like doing it so much now. He has to be really comfortable with people and want to show them his intellect to do it. But that's his superpower.
That's
and he told me, I told him, I said, that's a superpower, Nathan. He goes, Dad, superpowers aren't real. I said, well, can your friends do what you do with dates? No. I said, then that's a superpower. I said, me and you are superheroes with useless superpowers.
Well, you never know, you know.
Well, but we can't fight crime. I can't take down evil people with calendar. Like, for example, mine is hyperobservancy. My brain naturally records the details of everyone around me, even people I don't even like, which sucks. And and I learned when I was young that I could tell a person's mood on the phone from hearing the 2 syllables of hello.
That's incredible.
I could tell the kind of mood they're in. So my superpower, so to speak, I don't like the term savant ability. That's too clinical and it sounds negative. So I call them superpowers. Okay? And even though Nathan says superpowers aren't real, well, we still have them. We still are able to do things that neurotypical people can't do.
Yeah.
And so it makes me able to give really good compliments. most of the ladies I work with think I'm very sensitive and all that. I'm not. I'm a jackass like every other guy in the world. But I have the ability to see minor changes in things and say, "Oh wow, you changed your hair this week. That looks really good." Whereas most people don't see it. It's as obvious to me as if they had colored their hair screaming pink.
Yeah.
Just a minor change. It has served me very well in business. It makes me very hard to lie to, and it makes me able to understand where I stand with people, whether I want to know it or not. I know when people don't like me, and I'd rather not know, but I'm forced to know.
But you ended up knowing.
But I also know when people are honest and genuine with me, and that's a real blessing because then I can just cut to the chase with them.
Exactly.
And accept them for who they are and trust them. So it's like most things in life. It's a two-edged sword.
Yeah. Well, and I bet you serve you in your marriage too, because it's you're gonna, if she cut her hair, if she does anything different, you're gonna notice right away. You're not gonna get in trouble. So.
Well, the funny thing was, Nathan had a fabulous resource teacher that became more like a big sister to him when he was in elementary school. Mm-hmm. And she came in and she said, "Nathan, I changed my hair this weekend. Did you notice?" He said, "Yes." She said, "And you don't ever ask an autistic their opinion because you're going to get it.
You're going to get the truth, right? Like there's no filter."
Yeah, we have no filter. Don't do it. And so Kelly looked at him and she said, "Well, what do you think?" He said, "I liked it better the other way." So, yeah, I mean, so it's a blessing and a curse.
Exactly.
I told my psychiatrist when she diagnosed me with Asperger's, I said, "Doc, if you offered me a pill right now that would take it all away, I'd tell you to keep it." And she looked at me. She's an Indian lady, very lovely, she chose the perfect profession for her because she is really intuitive about people and has a gift for understanding people. And I said, "Doc, I wouldn't take that pill if you offered it." She said, "Of course you wouldn't, Mr. Batey, because you don't know how much of who you are it would take away from you.
Yeah.
And you are very gifted in many ways. And you don't know which of those gifts it would take from you. I'm not surprised that you tell me you don't want to be different." And that's the thing. People don't understand that sometimes being, quote, disabled, having a disability, might be a superior way of living.
It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah. I would not, because maybe if I did not have this, I would not have had the music career I've had.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my question. Just because we talked before, I kind of knew your music story, how you got where you are. But that's what I'm going to ask. You think that autism probably benefit you?
Absolutely.
For music and all that. Because I trained a kid for triathlon that he's autistic, and my God, like the kid, he was so focused, and like within 2 years, he was already like winning state championships.
Yeah.
Like it was incredible. Like his dedication and his focus was just like beyond anything I could comprehend.
Well, yeah, I'll give you an example, and this is not to pump myself up, but even I don't understand how I was able to do this. I played on a CD that I've told you about that was nominated in 2002 for Best Pop Instrumental. It was a modern Latin jazz CD. I've never studied Latin music. I've never played Latin music. But I listened to what the artist was playing on the guitar on his song, and I looked at the chart and I played what I thought needed to be there. And all of a sudden, we're nominated for a Grammy. And I never met most of the other musicians on that project. My tracks, the bass tracks, were the first tracks laid. He would strum the guitar to a click track. And for those who don't know what it is, it's like a metronome track that just gives you
The pace, yeah.
it gives you time. That's
Yeah.
it. And so I played along with Kevin, strumming the rhythm and imagining in my mind what other musicians, percussionists, violin player, saxophone player, guitar parts, what the space they would need to create themselves to do their best, but at the same time making what I was doing interesting and creative. And I still to this day don't know how I did that because I'd never studied Latin music, but I did it.
Yeah. Whoa.
And it's sometimes, and someday Luke may tell you this, sometimes it's mind boggling to be me. And I know it's mind boggling to be Nathan because sometimes we're just able to do things and we just do them and we don't know how or why.
Yeah. That's I kind of have a similar thing with intuition.
Yeah.
You know, for example, like I'm not a religious guy, but I do believe in energy and all that stuff. But the day that Luke went to have his trach surgery,
Yeah.
this lady came and she said like, well, I heard that your son is having surgery and stuff like that. Can we just said a prayer? And normally I would say no,
Hmm.
but you know, like all good energy are welcome right now. And
Yeah.
I said yes. And that day, that was like probably the freakiest thing that happened to me because that day, when I closed my eyes and she did a prayer, I saw Luke on the surgery table, and he looked to me. He's like, "I'm fine. I'll be out in 10 minutes." And
Yeah.
for some reason, I sat down. I turned on the stopwatch in my cell phone, just for the hell of it.
Yeah.
And in 10 minutes to the dot, the doctor comes out. He said like, Luke is fine. He's awake. He's waiting for you in the post-op room. I was like, I got so much goosebumps. I was like, I don't know what the heck was that, but you know. And I had other stories like with intuition
Okay.
happening to me throughout my years, and
Do
you
you
know,
know what you call someone who sends when a person comes to them and says, "Can I pray with you?" Do you know what you call a person who sends them away?
what
A fool.
a fool.
Because whether you are a person of faith, whether we share the same faith or not, when a person of honest and open heart wants to share their beliefs and try to leverage their beliefs for your benefit, there is only one right answer, and that's yes.
No, I agree with that. I mean,
I knew you would.
but the thing is, my only problem always has been is like when people try to convert me. That's all. But
Well, I'm
when
not
they
going
come
to do
to a
that.
when they come to an open heart like that, I always welcome them and like
Yeah,
with no problems whatsoever. But I just like it's crazy how intuition works, and sometimes like I can't explain things. I just know that like it's gonna happen. Same thing happened on one Christmas that Luke was fine during the night during the day in the supermarket and all that. He was 6 months years old, and I went home. Like my mom was trying to shop for Christmas dinner, and I kept thinking like, why we're gonna buy all this stuff if we're gonna spend Christmas in the ER? And
Right.
at 1 o'clock a.m. we were going to the ER with Luke.
Yeah.
Like it's freaky, but like I can't explain either. So I totally understand where you're coming from with
Yeah.
things
I
that you
mean,
can explain and that happen and you can explain. So
I'm an independent Christian minister, but that does not mean that I exclude anyone from the teachings of Christ and what he has told me to do. I have had Jews and Muslims and atheists and people of every different faith put their feet under the same table with my family at Thanksgiving. Okay, because that is what I'm called to do. I'm called to show love and acceptance. And so not everybody looks at it that way, but that's how I see it.
yeah,
And so,
that's pretty cool. So.
yeah, I mean, that's why you and I connect the way we do, is because I know where you stand from a faith position, and I do not feel the need to change you. It's not my job.
Right.
It is my job to be who Christ would be to you. And if you change because of that, then glory be to my Savior. If you don't change, then I have still done my job and I have still been a benefit, hopefully, to you and your family. It's that simple to me,
Yeah.
brother.
Yeah, I agree. It's like I
So,
told you, just be a good human being,
yeah.
But
And so, and I'm sorry. I have to tell you again. I'm just grateful that y'all put the videos of Luke out there when he's having fun, and I can look in his face and see that he is smiling and that he's enjoying his life and that y'all are making him happy. You know, it helps my depression to see that.
no,
It helps
I'm
me.
glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you're doing and putting your story out there is extraordinarily meaningful, and never stop. Journal. You need to make. You need to post videos of Luke's life until Luke graduates college.
Oh, that's one of my goals.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, your boy is smart enough to go to college. It will happen. I can look in his face and see the mind and the intellect that is in there. And I'm like, yeah, he's got muscular problems, but that kid has no brain problems whatsoever. That
Yeah, I
kid is
agree with
smart.
that.
He's smart as hell. So, all right, hit me with your next question, Richard.
Yeah. Well, the next question I have was like, I know you have done so much for awareness and all that stuff that like you put your name on Google, that's gonna come out a lot of stuff about autism. And I was so impressed. And I think the first thing I saw was when you painted your fingernails blue.
Yeah.
So can you explain your journey? Because I know your journey has been amazing. What you've done, and like you went out of proportion.
Oh, it went crazy.
You went crazy, right?
Yeah, a lady that I know. Here's how it started. It wasn't even my idea. A lady that I know who adores Nathan, and her little girl, who was about 4 at the time, would go to preschool, and when they did show and tell or when they did stuff like that, she would tell her friends about her giant, that she had a giant who was her personal giant, her friend, and it was Nathan, because Nathan would pick her up and swing her around, and she always loved Nathan. And so the mom painted her toenails blue for Autism Awareness Month in April. and painted her daughter, whose name is Layla, painted Layla's nails blue, and that's how it started. I started it as paint them blue for Nathan, and the idea of trying to see, okay, how many other ladies can I get to paint their nails blue for autism awareness? So I created what was called Paint them Blue for Nathan, and we got about 35 people, and I was really happy. I was really, really honored by the whole thing, and I was proud that people loved Nathan. The next year, I put a challenge out that I had no tattoos. People look at me with my long hair and my beard. I look kind of like a biker. I don't ride a motorcycle, but everybody thought I would have tattoos. I didn't, and I said, if I can get 100 people to paint their nails for the month of April in blue, I'll get an autism awareness tattoo. And my son, Nate Connor, my older son, and I both are artists who represent a bass builder called Devon Basses, custom electric bass guitars. Anyway, he is a Carnegie Mellon art graduate and a brilliant artist. He is a major artist, if not the head of art for USAA Bank.
Nice.
And so I had him design the autism awareness bass clef tattoo on my upper arm. But what happened was my wife has a huge family, and so my great nephews and great nieces went to their high schools, and everybody went out. And my great nephew Trey had his guy friends painting their nails blue and sending me pictures.
That's so cool.
So I got way over 100. Trey and his sister love Nathan. They accept him for who he is. My wife's family has been fabulous with this. And so I made way over 100. So I had to man up, and I got the tattoo on my upper right arm that I can send you a picture of if you want to post it.
Yes, please.
And that's the bass clef made out of puzzle pieces that Devin Smullen of Devin Basses designed for me. And yeah, I mean, my great nephew Trey it was so funny. He had high school guys painting their fingers and toes blue to support his cousin, and it was so moving to me that I just kept it going. But I had people sending me messages saying, I'm painting my nails blue for you and your son, and for my nephew so-and-so who's autistic, or for my grandson who's autistic. And so I changed it from paint them blue for Nathan to paint them blue for autism. Nathan was displeased with this. He liked being the star of the show. But I explained it to him that it had gotten much bigger than just us. And the next year, I became shocked because when I got my autism tattoo on my arm, a local news anchor who had met Nathan brought a film crew out, and they filmed me on local TV having that done. Well, the next year, I got an article in the newspaper about what I do, and it got posted to sheknows.com, which is a women's interest website that gets God knows how many million hits a day. And they posted the article. All of a sudden, a dear friend of mine's father passed very suddenly. I was in Arkansas at the wake, and my phone starts blowing up, and I answer my phone, and it's a reporter from New York City, for I'm trying to remember. TodayShow.com's website, wanting to talk to me and wanting to interview me.
Wow.
And in the following week, I was talked to by TodayShow.com, HuffingtonPostUK.com, ABC.com. It was like every day somebody wanted to interview me, and it went crazy. I found out that local affiliates, local news stations, saw it come through on the wire and did stories on it. And it went global. We got 1,400 plus pictures that year from 22 countries.
Wow,
I
that's
got
amazing.
I got them from Muslim countries where the ladies are expected to be very demure and to really cover themselves and stuff. But I got messages and pictures saying, "I have a child with autism. Thank you for what you're doing." And I did my best to make what I'm going to tell you next happen because I knew that I would only have the media's attention for 1 year. When you get the media's attention, it's a very short period.
Yeah.
And I told them I need a celebrity or I need to be on a talk show. I need to be on Ellen. I need to be on Oprah or Fox and Friends or Today or something. Or I need a celebrity sponsor because our culture is TV gluttonous and celebrity obsessed. But I never got that. So the next year I went from almost 1,500 down to like 200.
Which is still
So,
like awesome.
yes, but I'm a believer that it's better to burn out than fade away. It's better if you have a dog you love, you don't let them suffer too long. When you know that their quality of life has ended, you do the right thing. And I looked at my awareness project in the same way that, okay, it's fading. I can let it go back to 35 people if I want to, but there's no honor in that. So the year after that year, when it was in the 200s again, I shut it down simply out of respect for the cause
Hmm.
and that I felt like I had done my job.
Well,
We had a
yeah.
we had a great run, and
Right.
I came to understand that we have loads of autism awareness, but very autism acceptance. Very few people they are aware of the people in their life who have autism, but they don't invite them to go out with friends to movies. They don't include them in their life, which is acceptance. And I did not know how to create acceptance.
Yeah,
And
that's one
so
thing that we actually were talking about the other day because
yeah,
a lot of kids, like with autism or on the wheelchair or something like that, whenever they finish high school or college, like the tendency is to people just don't include them anymore.
oh
Like
yeah. One of
while they're in school, it's a school and all that, but after that, there's a gap
Yeah,
where you
and
know what
in
I mean.
fact,
Like,
Nathan's senior year was glorious. The he was he took sports medicine as an elective and was a sports trainer for the West Monroe High School Rebels football team, which is consistently listed among the top 10 high school football teams in the nation.
wow.
USA Today did an article on the best places to watch high school football, and West Monroe was listed. And so he was a sports trainer. And because he was a sports trainer, it made him eligible to be a homecoming escort.
Yeah.
So a young lady who was very popular in high school and had been and was very close to Nathan, very loyal to him, when she had been a homecoming maid since freshman year, every year. And she chose, because her boyfriend had graduated, she chose Nathan as her escort for homecoming. Well, she was elected homecoming queen. So Nathan escorted the homecoming queen. It was a massive moment for him. People cheered for him like crazy. The football team at West Monroe High School loved him as a trainer. They called him Nate Dogg, and
Nate Dogg.
he was loved by the coaches and by the players and the cheerleaders, and he had an amazing year. But when they all finished high school, his life became very silent.
Yeah.
They moved on, and because he wasn't ready to go to college yet, we're still working through some of his educational delays.
Hmm.
I believe that someday he'll have a degree. He's certainly smart enough, but he's just not ready yet.
Exactly. Needs a little bit more maturity.
But those people have totally forgotten him, and his life is very quiet.
Yeah. It
And I'm
changed
going,
quite a bit, right? Once you finish high school,
yeah,
it changed quite a bit on the special needs child life because,
and
like you
I'm going
said,
to be
everybody
honest with,
kind of go on,
yeah,
and like
they have to go on, but do they have to forget our children, Richard? I don't think they have. I don't think the two have to happen.
no, I don't think it happened to happen either. I think they should be all included, but
And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm gonna be really honest and transparent to tell you that it has been a massive struggle for me to control the anger and the bitterness over Nathan being a part of these people's lives and then not being a part of these people's lives when he contributed so much to their life and
yeah,
made them so happy. But they forgot him and they moved on. And it's very hard for me, Richard.
yeah,
I'm gonna be I'm gonna be honest.
I bet because I started to notice this the other days, like yes, and a lot of people, like they think it's cool, this, and this. But the minute that like, oh, okay, I, he's not going to college or anything like that. You kind of like space out on special needs kids, and I think, it's part of life. You gotta keep it going. Like you gotta keep.
Here's the deal. The problem is when the neurotypical people, the people who have no disabilities, when our children stop making them feel special about themselves because they feel good and benevolent, and they feel somehow like they are good because they have our children in their lives, when they can't get that feeling anymore, they just move along to try to find something else that makes them happy. And they don't think about the impact that it has because they don't consider our children a full, valid person. They
Yeah,
felt good about doing something good for someone who was less than them, but they do not feel that our children are equal to them. When in truth, as human beings, our children are equal to them.
exactly.
I,
Well,
Luke is not Luke is not my inferior because he has muscular problems.
yeah,
Nathan is not your inferior because he has developmental problems. He is valid and special and has things to offer people that no one else has to offer. But when they can't feel special about it anymore, they just move along.
yeah. That's why it's so important. Besides awareness, have inclusion.
Yeah,
In all aspects.
acceptance is the next goal, and I have I did my part for awareness. I don't know how to create acceptance, so I'm leaving that for better people than me to accomplish.
I
And
wouldn't
I
say
do,
better people, but just different.
Well, but
in a
I
different
say that
path or whatever, you know.
I say that without bitterness, Richard. I
No, I
say
know you say, but I'm just saying, like, I don't think it's just better or not. It's just a different, you know, like a different perspective, different
right.
ability, you so to speak.
No, but if they can accomplish acceptance, I will gladly declare them as better than me without any angst or any regret because they've accomplished what I was not able to. And so I want them to accomplish that. And I'm cheering for anyone who would try. You follow me?
Yes. Yeah.
It's not because I devalue myself.
No, I know that. I've talked to you before. I know that you're not devaluing yourself. It's just, I just want to put out there that it's like it's not better than anybody. You know what I
Right.
mean? That's just me saying that.
No, no, no. You are a graceful human being, Richard. I accept it.
Okay, I appreciate it.
So hit me with another question, brother. Let's
Well,
talk.
yeah, I have one question. Like, actually, I have two more questions because we're already over 1 hour, and
Yeah,
it
I
feels
know.
it feels
You and
I
I
can,
have trouble.
yeah, I can talk to you forever, but
Right?
you know at least that's the way I feel. But I have, well, two questions because I think it's just, I'm a big fan of rock, especially metal, and that's why one of the reasons why this podcast is called Fatherhood Rocks is just because
Yep.
I think rock and roll is probably one of the most empowering musics out there, and being a father for me is probably the greatest thing that ever happened in my life. So
Yeah.
that's why I combine one with the other. But I just want to ask you, when, like, music came to your life, and how, when metal came into your life, because I know we talk about Iron Maiden, and I know we can talk about this all day long, and which is probably going to be a topic for another podcast. But I
We
just
will
want,
do one.
for
I'll be
sure,
brief.
yeah. But I just
Okay.
wanted you to tell a little bit of your story with music, and
Yeah.
after that I do my last question, so it doesn't get too long for people to listen.
And I will put this in a nutshell, okay? I started playing guitar in the porch swing at my home with my parents when I was 12 years old. In 1980, I discovered AC/DC. I bought the Back in Black album when it came out. It changed my life. It really defined what I love about music to a large degree. Okay.
Okay.
I was playing acoustic guitar. I was never a great guitar player, but I was able to accompany myself well and sing. And because I have a decent voice, um, I'm not Devin Townsend or anybody like that.
Mm-hmm.
But um, I found my voice at age 22 on bass when the bass player at the church that I was playing at was an associate pastor. He found himself too busy and they put me on bass. It was the greatest thing anyone's ever done for me. Bass became my voice. Uh, Playing bass has allowed me to teach music all over the nation. I've taught clinics in Seattle, Nashville, Dallas when I lived out there. Um, I've been able to share my musical knowledge with people throughout the world. I've played all over the country. I've toured with different minor artists.
That's awesome.
Um, I have, I've toured overseas in Great Britain. Um, and it's been an amazing thing. And my son Connor, my older son, who's not autistic, is a prodigy on bass and has been able to do some amazing things. Even though he's been playing just over a year, I'm very proud of him. But I was introduced to Iron Maiden by my roommate in college and to Queensryche and other bands like that. My children have been raised listening to Dream Theater. Um, Connor went out to represent Devin Bases, that we both are now artists
Oh, that's
represent
awesome.
bases, which are custom bases. He met John Petrucci of Dream Theater, hung out with him, talked to him. He met Devin Townsend. He met Heinrich Lender of Dirty Loops, and got to figure out that all these people, the truly great musicians, are humble human beings. And so it's been a wild ride for me that has carried over to my oldest son. That because he's my son, I was able to boost him into these opportunities. And so my life has been unbelievable. That's the thing that people don't realize is that yes, I'm autistic and I'm on the autistic spectrum, but being who I am has allowed me to live a life bigger than I ever saw coming, and to meet my heroes musically, and to send my son to develop his own relationships and meet his heroes. And
Yeah.
so it's just been crazy. The idea that parents of typical children view us as people to be pitied because our children are different is so, it's almost insane, Richard. You know this. We experience such joy, and it's just such a different experience that they can't grasp, and they pity it because they only see the negative, because they don't connect deeply enough to see the positive.
Yeah. I usually say I usually tell my wife, like, like we talk, and usually the conclusion is always the same. Like, we gotta focus on the good things, on the things
Yeah,
that Luke can do, and not just focus on the things that he can't do.
exactly. And one of my tattoos is about that with Nathan. And even when you and I were talking and visiting, I decided I was going to be a jerk because you were a metalhead, and I sent you the picture of me with Nico McBrain, the drummer for Iron Maiden,
Yeah.
and us visiting and laughing together. And it became almost a funny joke between us because we were talking about metal, and I said, "Hey, tell me what you think about this." And I sent you the picture of me with Nico, and you were like, "Whoa, that's what it's about, man." And so you and I have connected as much through music as we have through having special children.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, so we have far more to talk about than our children's challenges. And people don't grasp that if you will engage with us, yeah, we have to deal with our kids' challenges, and we want you to be involved, and we want other people to be involved as positive influences for them and to love them. But we're still people, and we still want to engage with you like you do with anybody else. And
Exactly. Yeah.
I think people miss that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, you said something about that you were able to do uh, with your life, an amazing life, being yourself. Like, what's the advice you give it out there to, because I what I feel sometimes today that people are not being true to themselves, and that's where, like, we create so much trouble.
Hmm.
And what would you say, like, what would be your advice? Because you coming from being autistic to having a child with autism, what would you recommend to people to just love themselves and accept themselves and have the amazing life, that the potential that we can have?
Okay, it's very simple. If I can do this in spite of my challenges, What can you do without the challenges?
True. That's
Why
that's the
why would you choose to be normal? There are no normal people in the history books.
exactly.
Find what you're good at, find what you love, and pursue it. You only get one life. Find what is amazing to you and do it. That is the thing that those of us who have special challenges are forced to do that most people are not forced to do. We are forced to find what we're good at, find what we're passionate about, and do it because we don't fit the regular mold. And so, in order to have a life we can love, we have to find those things we can love and pursue them with passion. I would tell people who are neurotypical, who do not have diseases, do not have muscular problems, find what you love and that you're good at and just do it.
Exactly. I
That is
couldn't
the
agree more.
key.
Yeah.
That is the key. Richard, you did it. You told me that you always wanted to win an Ironman, and the year Luke was born, you took the tape.
Yeah.
You scratched your itch. You accomplished your goal. And so when Lukey came along, you were ready for him
Yeah.
because you had proven to yourself and the world that you were the athlete you needed to be and you wanted to be. I have proven to myself and to the world that I am the musician that I believe that I am and that I needed to be and that I desired to be. And so after that, once you're able to do that, life becomes very easy
I agree.
because you don't need other people's affirmation. You've been given affirmation. Hey, there's when you took the tape, when that tape was across your chest on your first Iron Man win, nobody can ever take that away from you.
exactly.
I have a copy of the letter from the National Academy of Recording Arts and Sciences declaring the CD I played on as a Grammy nominated CD. Nobody can take that from me, and I don't need anybody else to affirm me.
That's awesome. That's a really good message. Really deep but good message.
So that's what I tell people. Do what you love, do it to your best because when you fulfill yourself that way, you can fulfill those around you that way because you do not any longer have the need to fulfill yourself. Your itch has been scratched, and you can give to others, and you can love others and help them get to that point for themselves because you've already been there.
Yeah. It's like I always say, you cannot pour from an empty cup.
So
Yeah.
that's all I have to offer, Richard.
That's awesome. That's awesome. That's perfect actually.
But
Uh,
but here's the deal. Keep doing what you do, brother. Keep doing this podcast. You and your wife are amazing. Luke is blessed to have y'all as parents, and I will be watching from the shadows and cheering for y'all until my last breath.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. And I have no words. Every time I talk to you, I come out speechless.
Well, if you find people who need someone to talk to, young people with a new diagnosis, you have my contact information. Send them to me.
Thank you. I think a lot of people will appreciate that because it's it's important. Like one of the reasons I decided to do this podcast is exactly that. It's just to
Mhm.
tell people that to
Yeah,
other dads like you're not alone. Like there is
yeah.
just embrace your challenges, have fun, and love what you do. So,
Well, for the people who are closest to me, my trademark signature of affection is a kiss on the forehead. So I will ask you one thing. You kiss Lukey on the forehead when you can, and you tell him it's from me, and you kiss your lovely wife on the forehead, and you tell her it's from me.
we'll do. I will do as soon as we finish here.
Because both of them have my respect and have my support.
Cool. I will definitely do that as soon as I come out of here.
All right, my brother.
All right. I have one more question,
Okay.
just to close it up. Uh, what is the thing that you can tell anybody that your son does, both of your sons, just one of them doesn't matter, that you look at like, oh my god, fatherhood rocks.
When I get to see my children be kind to other humans, to be kind to people who have nothing to offer them in return, that's when I know that fatherhood rocks. That's when I know that I have succeeded. When they can go beyond their own personal self interest and they can love another person because they need to be loved in that moment. That's when I know that I have succeeded and fatherhood rocks.
That's awesome. That's a great message. Again, it's been a pleasure talking to you for the second time.
And
This
you as
time the
well,
audio
Richard.
it's amazing. So we will post pretty soon this podcast, and I'm actually looking forward to do one just about metal.
Absolutely. We could talk so much about metal.
Oh, that would probably be a 3 hour podcast.
Yeah, people won't watch it, but we'll have fun.
We will have fun, exactly. All right. Thank you very much, Brian. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, good
And
night, my brother.
have a good night. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And remember, fatherhood rocks.
Fatherhood rocks.